Hello. It's a slow news week, not a no news week. Still have news to share with you, of course. Why would I ask you to come here to join me if I didn't have any news to share this week in the Oregon startup world, the Portland startup world? Great piece from a longtime community member, innovation leader, ecosystem builder on Oregon's problems around startups and innovation and what we can do to kind of solve that, or at least identify what the issues are. There was a piece from an advocacy group that pointed to things that Portland is doing well, but still some opportunities to do things a little bit better. Portland, which has been declining in rankings on a variety of things, rose in some rankings and cracked the top 20 on a very important list that I would like to share with you that has to do with innovation and startups and business and that kind of thing. Our friends at Expensify, if you have agents that you would like dealing with your financial matters, they have something interesting there. And a couple other things. And then, of course, if you stick around, like I know you will, because I'm just so damn interesting. At the end, of course, I will share secrets with just you and only you, but only if you stick around. So, boop, I will see you at the end for secrets. All right, let's get into it. Quick hits. As I mentioned, our friends at Expensify have released an MCP. So if you use Expensify to keep track of your expenses and you want your agents to be able to deal with those expenses, or at least, interrogate that information, there is now an MCP from Expensify, so you can point your agent at that and it can talk to all the expenses and financials and travel and all the things that Expensify does. So that's super interesting. I've been thinking about some MCP opportunities, and unfortunately, every time I say MCP, still I think of Tron.
I feel a presence. Another warrior is on the mesa.
The master control panel in Tron. I realize that's not what MCP stands for, but that's what I tend to think of. So that's what's happening with Expensify. Our friend Nate Wildfire of the Missing Middle Housing Fund, a PI alum, appeared on the Housing Voices podcast. I posted that to the blog. And if you're interested in hearing what Nate has to say about not low income housing and not traditional housing, which is super expensive, but it's really the middle housing. So folks who are working in service industries or, at maybe entry-level jobs who can't necessarily afford housing in the area that they're working, and they wind up like living 90 minutes away so they can afford it, and then they're commuting and gas costs so much and like all these things. Why can't they just have housing that they can live in near where they work? That's what Missing Middle Housing Fund is working on, as well as some other things which are interesting and I will tell you more about later as they come to fruition. But just if you're interested in housing and all the issues, and Nate has a very interesting and well-informed perspective, and I encourage you to listen to that if you like the podcasts and the people talking and stuff. Clearly you do, because you're sitting here listening to me talk for some odd reason. Okay, let's get into the big stories, the deep dives. Our friend Dwayne Johnson.
If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
Not that Dwayne Johnson is, he's super thoughtful. He's fairly quiet in the community unless something kind of gets his dander up, but he's engaged. He's observing. I've worked with Dwayne for years and years, had the chance to collaborate with him on projects like Startup Champions Network, as well as an ecosystem building in Kaufman and stuff in Portland and all this kind of thing. Dwayne goes by the handle Dr. Fortune because he really has a unique ability to identify areas where folks can get funding. And that's always been the thing I've gone to Dwayne for, where it's just like, I don't know how we fund this pursuit. And he'll be like, well, this is what you do. I'm like, Dwayne, how you know that? And Dwayne's like, I've been around a while and I know what's what. So Dwayne took the opportunity we were going back and forth with Norris Kruger, who is another ecosystem builder out of Boise, my old home state of Idaho. Lived in Boise for a while, lived in Twin for a lot longer. But Dwayne was going back and forth with Norris, and I was on the thread and talking about things and stuff. And Dwayne was just like, hey, look, here's the problem with Oregon. And he shared this document that was incredibly insightful, very thorough, and very well reasoned. And I was like, hey, Dwayne, elbowed him the email. I was like, hey, are you going to publish this anywhere? Have you published it anywhere? Should we publish it anywhere? He's like, go do whatever you want to do. So I posted that to Silicon Florist. Literally forgot the name of my nearly 19-year-old blog there for a second, but and it's well worth the read. I've heard from a few people who've been sharing it around who are like, yes, this is the kind of thing we need. But basically the context, the high level is, in Dwayne's perspective, Oregon is like an archipelago, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly, archipelago, that, a group of islands. That's what it's like. It's not that it's like the Bahamas or whatever, but it's like a group of islands, each island doing their little thing, but there are no bridges among the islands. And it's like this, he said something along the lines of, it's not a network, it's a collection of cliques. So kind of like, get in, loser, we're doing startups.
Get in, loser, we're going shopping.
Really informative piece. Really appreciate the perspective. Found myself nodding along with it quite a bit. Really happy that he shared it with others outside the region so that they could see it. And really happy that he took the opportunity to allow me to publish it on Silicon Florist. So I will link that up. Please go read Dwayne's piece. And if it's too long, maybe tell me in the comments and maybe I'll read it to you, because that's clearly what this is I show up here. I'm like, I've been writing stuff on my blog all week. Did you read it? And you go, no, I don't read blogs. And so I go, okay, well, fine. I will read the stuff to you, like the stuff that Dwayne posted on the blog. So there's that really important read. Please take the opportunity to do it. So that started my week. And then at the end of my week, Engine, which is an advocacy group at the federal level that focuses on startups and innovation and tries to help the federal government understand what's going on in startup communities and how the federal government can be helpful. And they also work on a regional basis, sometimes at a state level or a city level. They're really just designed to be advocates for startups in government. And that's the work they do as an advocacy group. I followed them for a long time, chatted with them on a number of occasions. Portland has been highlighted by them from time to time. They put out a new report on kind of innovation, the innovation flywheel, I think is what they called it. It was a flywheel, and they were kind of describing like, these are the things you need in a community for an innovation flywheel to occur. So it was very much like Dwayne's piece, but it was thinking more broadly and generically about the elements that are required by any startup ecosystem that is in the Bay Area and what they need to be focused on. And Portland really nailed 3 out of the 4. Like, we're already doing a lot of the work that needs to be done. And the 4th is really, not that we're diametrically opposed to it, but the 4th is kind of this hub aggregation activity that in my 30 years in Portland, we've never been terribly good at doing. We never had that kind of like central amalgamation of all the things and people and stuff and things happening. And I think it's, I think it's something that's just cultural a little bit. Like I think Portland likes to be diaspora rather than collective central activity. Like I think that's part of our culture. We'd much rather have the crafted, handmade, not done at scale, unique product instead of the mass-produced, everybody has the same thing product kind of world that is also another aspect of building products. I don't know if I'm making any sense here. We'd rather have the garage band than the band that's, making hit records. It's just something about the culture here. And I think it's one of those things where often people try and correct that. Like they try and say, this is a problem, let's fix this, rather than maybe stepping back saying, this is how the culture works. How do we work within that culture to get some things done? So I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on that kind of thing. I'm just saying probably one of the reasons we kind of got dinged on it from my perspective, as I went through all the elements, one of the reasons I dinged us on is I'm like, that's just not how we work. That's not how the West Coast works, really. I mean, apart from Hollywood, there is no real hub of, the Bay Area, obviously, is a hub of startup activity, but it's like you can do startups in Seattle, you can do startups in Portland, you can do startups in Bend, you can do startups in Eugene or Corvallis, you can do them in Pleasanton or San Diego or Sacramento or Tacoma, Spokane. I'll just rattle off cities up and down the West Coast for you, but you get my point. It's like, or you don't. The thing is, we just don't really have a hub mentality. We don't have an aggregation mentality. So my challenge to us as a community is to be like, if that's the case and we don't do a good job at doing this, to Dwayne's point about the island groups, a bunch of islands, how do we start to build those bridges and network all those things? Because we can't force all those islands together into one giant landmass. The islands are going to be the islands, but we need to figure out how to bridge all of that stuff, if I'm making any sense whatsoever, which I might not be, because it's Friday evening and I would like to go watch the U.S. play in the World Cup game. So I may be not all here, but thank you for considering that. And I would love to hear your comments. Are we too cliquey? Is there even a community? Is there a network? Are we just little islands of people doing things? Is there momentum? Are there things doing stuff? Let me know, because I pay attention to a lot of this stuff. I have a lot of my opinions, but, I'm not always that right about things and stuff. And in that report, which I'll link up, they talk about New Orleans, Indianapolis, and Buffalo as example communities. So there might be something you can derive from there, something that is applicable to Portland or similar to your town. If you're elsewhere watching this or listening to this, it just really interesting to have Dwayne's piece hit at the beginning of the week and then this piece hit at the end of the week. And I'm spending a lot of time thinking about how many things they have in common or they highlight about things we need to focus on doing here. And then finally, just real quick, Financial Times, the UK publication that's, deeply respected and all those kind of things. And the Nikkei trading platform, Nikkei, like Japanese, pointed to Portland as one of the up-and-coming cities for foreign interest, foreign companies from outside the United States have the potential to do very well in Portland. And Portland is up like 5 places. We cracked the top 20. We're in number 17 now. Unfortunately, our friends at Seattle saw a decline. So that's interesting. Why is Portland doing better and Seattle doing worse? Just a really interesting report. You know me, I'm not a huge fan of the rankings and the people who do rankings, especially when it's like Wallet Hub or like, moving.com or whatever. But when it's the Financial Times, that's pretty reputable publication. So paying attention to it, the long and short of it is Portland is within the top 20 cities in the United States that are great places for companies outside the U.S. to consider doing business, establishing a footprint, establishing a corporate presence, all of those things. So congratulations, Portland. That's a good one. We don't always get good news like that, and that's super interesting. So I will keep an eye on that. I will look forward to that report in the coming years, and we'll just keep an eye on the metrics and all those kind of things. So Portland, great. Great for companies from outside of the U.S., maybe not so great for the companies that are here. And so that's sometimes the way that it goes. All right, let's get into secrets. I'm probably keeping you from a World Cup game, so I will try and make this, I will creak my chair a lot, and we'll try and make this fairly quick. This week, it got the chance to catch up with Joe Janda at Portland State, who is heading up the hiring of the new hub director, the Portland Metro Region Innovation Hub. You know, the hub of innovation for the entire Portland region, metropolitanly. He's doing that hiring. He's looking for folks who are interested in taking that role. And I've talked to a couple of people who are considering applying, so that's great. And I shared that job post. I'll make sure, maybe I'll write up a post about it. At least I'll link it up, that kind of thing. What else happened? I talked to a bunch of founders. What else happened? Talked to a bunch of founders, talked to a bunch of VCs, like I do week to week, talking to the people and the things. I thought the Joe thing was important. Met some founders that, I'd kind of renewed my efforts to find stuff, to talk about stuff before major publications like our friends at the Portland Business Journal are talking about it. So I've been doing some digging, found some new things, met some new startups because of that. And some startups that, I either wrote them up and they're like, hey, thanks for doing that. Let's chat. Or, hey, we're doing a new thing and we saw that thing you wrote, so maybe we should chat. So that kind of stuff is great. Caught up with my good friend and fellow alum of our joint alma mater, Matt Dittrich. Chatted with him about what's going on in this Portland startup world and things and stuff. It's always good to catch up with him. And that was really, and secret wise, the Nate Wildfire thing I mentioned, like I've talked to you about it a couple times. If you've been here for secrets, there may be a new experiment coming from Pi that Nate is working on that could be super interesting and super transformative for the community. So I'm excited about that. I don't know that there's that much more secret wise. I've been really cranky and angry lately, and am worried that I'm coming across that way in social or in texts or in these episodes or whatever. And if I am, I apologize to you specifically. It's not you. It's me. It's my problem. Just let me kind of deal with those problems and those kind of things. And yeah, and then had some big celebrations this week in a personal way that, are just kind of those like milestone moments that are yeah. So there's a lot of good stuff that's happening. I can't figure out why I'm so angry and cynical and bitter, but I'm sure I'll get over it. Or maybe I'll just be bitter the rest of my life. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, there's all that and some other challenging stuff too, but that's okay. We will get through that. It's going to be warm this weekend. Please take care of yourself. Please. If it's super hot when you're watching this, please find some air conditioning or a mister or something. It's going to get really, really warm, and I'm concerned about you and your machine overheating. So please hang in there. Please stay cool. Watch some World Cup. Go USA. Until we get the chance to chat again, please keep up the good work.